1, 2, 3. Boom. We're live. Okay, not really live.
Alive.
Alive.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. A new episode of the Please podcast.
Yay.
And I have my dear friend, someone that I admire,
Mm-hmm.
Carmen, as guest today. Thanks, Carmen, for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
So I'm going to introduce you, and I will let you. Also, I'm gonna give some keywords there that I like while doing my research. Like, who is really Carmen beside that nice person that build community and stuff like that? Who's that person? I found a few keywords, but right after that, you will be able to like run them up and tell me exactly what I'm missing and things like that.
I'm
gonna
a secret agent.
A secret agent. It's like, that's perfect. So Carmen is a software engineer, and I actually got to know Carmen via NGBE personally, but she was doing so much before that, especially building community. She worked on one of actually very popular project documentation for Protractor.
Yeah,
and
the Protractor
Angular team, and then she works today at NewLab as a devrole. And today we're going to talk about something that is not really deep technically speaking, but it's as deep as one could expect from the title, meaning the mindset, how the mindset can help you change your career, or just the way the mindset works and how you can use that to change things around you. So welcome again, Carmen.
Thank you.
Is there something that I missed right there? Can you tell us more about the devrole position and what it means, and what do you like about it, and yeah.
So the devrole position is very new. So I've been doing this for about a year now.
Okay.
I didn't do that before. I was working as a front-end engineer, and I was giving talks here and there, and I did the Protractor style guide. But that was
a big one. Huh? That was big one, meaning that it does help to move the testing part forward for a lot of companies.
It seems like it.
Yeah. That's Carmen being shy, and then
I don't keep numbers of it, so that's why.
Obviously. But it was a big one. Like a small note on this one, I told people, like, I'm gonna have this podcast and Carmen's gonna be joining me. They'll be like, Carmen. I'm like, Carmen.
I don't keep track of it, but sometimes there are, I still see people like opening issues on it and so on. That was actually part of my job while I was working at ING. And my colleagues were just saying that people are kind of struggling with end-to-end testing, and we wanted better practices in place. So it just happened to be me that took up on the task, and then I immediately said, we should open source this. I think it would be very helpful for other people too, because ING works at a very big scale. So. Yeah. And it was very nice, because then I partner up with Andres from Google, and he also had a lot of experience. So it was very nice how it came together, and it seemed to have helped people. So that's always very nice. Yeah.
Is the mic okay on this side, or should we bring
closer?
It a little bit closer?
Yeah, I can do that. Is this better?
Yeah.
Like this?
If you can talk
right into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we can just can just break it like I do, or then you get.
You mean like this?
You can actually really break it like that. Yeah.
Like this?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yay.
That is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. I can hear her like, better. The and then you start working at New Lab as a devrole. So you mentioned a little bit
Right.
what's the devrole roles and title, but
Yeah,
can you tell us more?
So I spoke with a lot of people about what devrole means. I think devrole means different things to different companies. I don't think there's like a how do you say that? I'm missing the word now.
You mean a guideline?
I don't think like there's an established definition per se as to what it means.
So Carmen, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yeah.
Like you, the one who's able to build guidelines for a protector and how people should be using it, can't you just go ahead and then get everyone around the table and say, okay, this is how this thing should be. Let's document that, GitHub,
Right.
everyone contribute, and then we go from there.
Yeah.
Jokingly, I mean, I think it's feasible, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing when there is room to define what the role is. I also think that people go in the role with different expectations. Like some people still really want to code a lot, so they approach the role from that perspective.
Yeah.
Other people approach it more from the perspective of building communities. I think it was Robert Nyman from Google. He wrote a very good article about what devrole is.
Yeah.
and how different people approach the role differently. And from my experience, having spoken with a lot of DAs, he kind of seems to have nailed it down.
okay.
So
Right.
yeah.
So when I spoke with you about like I invite you for the podcast, we discussed a few topics, and one of them that was pretty close to your heart, and you gave a talk in Berlin
Yeah.
a few weeks ago
Yeah, with
about
Martin.
it. Yeah, can you was the mindset as a way? I'm gonna phrase it that way, but you can always rephrase that. So mindset as a way to grow in your life, or as a way to have a different career.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so we gave a talk about this with Martin at NGD. The talk was called The Myth of the Brilliant Developer.
Yeah.
It's something that it kind of followed me throughout my career, and I was never really able to pinpoint it. Everybody said, oh, it's imposter syndrome. And whereas I do understand what imposter syndrome is and like the ways you could fix it, it never like, I don't know, there was still something missing. It was not it.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time of really trying to figure out what it is, and then I came across this book by Carol Dweck.
Yeah.
And her book is called Mindset, and there she talks about the two different types of mindsets.
Yeah.
And how they can influence you in the way you look at things, the way you approach things in like all aspects of your life. It can be your career, but also your family life, your education, your children.
Yeah.
So and that then it was really when the coin dropped, and I was like, whoa, okay. I've been doing it wrong.
Okay. So how does that relate to in your life? Like this mindset shift, how did you apply that in your life, or
So maybe just like to explain a little bit about the two different types of mindsets, maybe,
indeed,
so that people get an idea. So so what Carol mentions is that in her studies, and she had a lot of like study groups, and she did a lot of research about this. I think it was almost her entire career, and so throughout her research, she realized that there are these two mindsets. One is the fixed mindset, and the other one is the growth mindset.
Yeah.
And the fixed mindset is characterized by it's this thinking that your capabilities are fixed. They're set. You're born with them.
Indeed.
So whatever it is that you're born with, however it is that you are right now, that's it. Like that's you, and that's it, and you can't really. And the growth mindset is the exact opposite. The growth mindset thinks that okay, what you are now is what you are now, but you can always grow on that. And the whole purpose of, I don't know, I mean, life, it sounds very cliche now, but it's a whole learning process. And what you will be tomorrow will be something different than what you are today. And the idea is that you can grow your skill set. So that's a little bit like the TLDR version.
TLDR.
Yeah.
So basically, I think as a human being, we have these we have a lot of things that influence our environment, our way of thinking.
Yeah.
And depending of where you were born or where you live, you can automatically fall into these fixed mindset versus being having a growth mindset.
Yeah.
How does that apply? Like all those researches apply in your life. How did finding that change your way of doing things?
Well, I mean, first of all, it really creates this awareness. So you find yourself analyzing the way you're doing things, or maybe not analyzing is not the right word, but you're really more aware of how you do things.
Okay.
So sometimes, when you struggle with something and then you think like, oh, I give up. I'm not made for this. I'm not supposed to do this. I don't have it. Then you recognize it. And that's a very big thing, because the moment that you recognize it, you go like, okay, wait, it's this. So maybe I can work against it. And then it changes the way you approach things. And it was the same for me. So for example, when I was in university, and I was studying computer science, I was not this very brilliant student. I didn't have the best grade. I didn't have bad grades. I had relatively okayish grades.
Yeah.
But I wasn't this kind of student, that could answer any question. And like, I don't know, I was struggling. I was studying, but I was struggling, like grasping concepts and so on. So it was like not an easy path. And the more I struggled, the more I started. And also, like, the teachers were not very encouraging necessarily towards the people who were really trying very hard to get it, to study, I don't know. So then what happened was that I felt that the more I was struggling with it, the more I felt like, well, maybe this is, maybe I just don't have it. Maybe, I'm struggling for nothing, because maybe I'm just not good enough for it. And I really wish that I knew back then about this, because now, for example, when I struggle with something, I think, well, it's okay. And then I kind of make a mental list of, okay, what is it exactly that I'm struggling with? And then I immediately think, okay, how do I fix this? And I make mental action notes, and then I start acting on them. So it's a very different approach. Like, in one approach you give up, and in the other approach you actually learn how to
how to accept that, okay, recognize, as you mentioned, and then act upon on it.
Exactly, yeah. Like really to take a bit of distance. Mm-hmm. It's not you're just struggling with something. It doesn't make you a bad person or not smart person or Yeah.
Are you into like meditation, things like that?
No.
One of the thing in meditation, I'm not an expert. I don't. I'm just trying. And one of the thing that I learned was like learn how to observe the thoughts, the things coming at you, and then you'll be like, okay, I think this doesn't work, but you just don't give up, and you're like, okay, I'm aware of that. Now let's find a path to get there.
Yeah.
It's probably the same thing, like observing, acknowledging that it is there, and then start working from there. Is there a skills like even today that you're applying the same approach?
Well, so like outside of work, for example, I picked up on this. I do pole sports.
Yeah.
And I apply it there every day. Every day I apply it there. It's actually, it's been very fascinating for me, because there, like when I go and I learn, and it's very challenging from a body perspective. So you really have to be very strong, like very strong muscles and so on. And like every time that I struggle with something, I look back at where I started, and I think, okay, well, it's okay. Because I see the progress, and then I just focus on what do I need to work on.
Yeah.
So I move forward.
Okay.
And there has not been one point where I went to my class and I said, oh, I'm not made for this. I'm going to give up. Because every time I think, okay, what can I do? What do I need to do better? What do I need to practice on? What do I need to learn to move forward? And that's it's such a big mind shift.
Yeah. Doing so, have you kind of developed a kind of framework? I'm going back to the like a framework that you can always fall back to in case you need it, like a framework of like and what I mean by a framework is something that you can literally hand over to other people, like, yeah, if you have this, maybe.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that. I always made it more for myself.
Yeah.
I never really thought about.
But when you give what was the main thing takeaway from the talk you gave in Berlin? What was probably that the framework or?
Yeah, it could be. I actually think that for myself, maybe I have an even more like extensive plan. I mean, not plan, but way or action points of how I deal with it.
Yeah.
But
you mind sharing that?
Yeah, sure. But for example, what we wanted people to get out of the talk was that you should. So the first thing was that you can always learn anything. As long as you want to learn it, you will learn it.
Yeah.
And you should never really compare yourself to anyone else. It's really important that you track your own progress rather than... Because sometimes you look at where you want to be, but that can be very, very far. And if you never look back at where you started, then you lose track of of what you've accomplished so far, and that can be very demotivating.
Indeed.
So what we said is you should always track your own progress. If you are working towards something, keep that in mind, but don't compare yourself to other people, because everybody has their own speed and everybody takes their own time. And that's okay. And when you only keep track of your own progress, that is less it's less daunting than when you look around and you see, oh no, they're going so fast and why am I going so slow?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, as long as you're going. That's the most important.
Yeah.
That was the most important thing. So
Okay.
these are a couple of things that we wanted people to take away with them.
I will say, like, it also depends on like the personality of like each person is a bit different in that sense.
Yeah.
Saying like
Yeah.
we can, some people will be driven by that comparison, like, hey,
Yeah, that's
this,
true. Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think it's the right way to go. But the other people will be like that, they have hard time to self-discipline, that like, and keep track on whatever needs to be done to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Like when you set goals for yourself, do you have those, how do you deal with those moments when you're doubting, like, can I make it, can I
The first thing I say is usually, "Oh, tomorrow's gonna be better. I'm just gonna go to sleep now."
Yeah.
No, but it's real,
Yeah,
and it
okay.
works. It really works every day. I think, oh yeah, it's one of those days now.
Yeah,
It's one of those
okay.
fixed mindsets days when it's like everything is raining and I'm just not gonna make it. And then I say, well, tomorrow's gonna be better.
Okay.
And then I call it a day.
And then do you have like a daily routine that takes you into like whatever you want to go for the day?
I'm not so much on, I'm not very big on daily routines.
Okay.
For me, it's I don't know. It was really the shift in the mindset.
Okay.
Because I mean, in terms of daily routine, because for me, when it's the most present when I'm struggling with something. So I don't see it so much related to the daily routine, or I don't feel that I necessarily need to add something to my daily routine to have it more present.
Yeah.
But it's more reminding myself in moments where I am struggling that, okay, what do I do now? So that's kind of where the framework comes into play.
Okay.
Because, for example, when I'm coding something and I don't know something, the first reaction used to be panic. How do I not know this? That was the first reaction.
Okay.
Always.
Wow.
And now the reaction is like, oh, okay, I don't know this, and then I start reading about it. So that's very different. So this is kind of the framework. So when I'm struggling with something, is like, first thing is like, okay, I'm struggling with something, I should not panic.
Yeah.
Then the second is, okay, I don't know something, how do I fix it? And then I'm like, okay, if I don't know it, then I should read about it and try to understand it. And then from there, it's like it's evolving like a plan, and there's, I don't know, it's so much easier to do it like this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that approach.
yeah. And the thing about what you said, I really believe that there are many people who are not struggling with this. But I also think that there are many people who are. And it's not about that this is an answer for everyone. Maybe some people are struggling with the same thing, but this will not be an answer for them. So it's not like kind of a life path kind of thing. But I do think it's a very interesting insight, because it can really, you can see it in all walks of life and in all aspects of life. So and that's also what Carol says in her book. It's that you can be fixed mindset in some things, and you can have a growth mindset in other areas of your life. And it's more about being aware of it and try to work on it.
Okay.
So
basically, I think when we discussed that topic, I felt like it was so obvious for me. What makes you think that, or what made you think that, especially that conference you went to was a software engineering focused conference? What made you think that topic will apply to people in that room? Because the same talk you could have given that at other conferences, because it does apply cross industry.
that's true.
What makes it really like for software engineer, something that they need to take into account?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really like you said, it's not something that's very specific to engineers. But I mean, I come from the engineering world, so I have struggled with this in my engineering career.
Okay.
So there are some triggers here and there which are very related to an engineer's work, and I do see, or I've heard from quite a few people who, you know, like they work and they study really hard, and then, you know, they're in their careers for a couple of years, and then they think, oh man, you know, I still don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggling with a lot of things, and then they start questioning themselves, like, is this how it's supposed to be? Or I think it's important to keep this in mind, because if you don't, you could have a lot of people who drop out because of this. And I do think there are people who drop out because of this, because they feel that you know, they work really hard and they've working at it for so long, and that there's still so much more to know, and they still don't know all the patterns and so on. But I mean, computer engineering is so wide. I don't think there's anyone who knows it all. So I do think that it's very important to keep this in mind. And the idea, like, of the talk, like of the myth of the brilliant developer, is that I think there's this unconscious, or I don't know if it's unconscious, but there's this like stereotype of what a developer, an engineer, the perfect
bias,
the perfect engineer should be. There's this image that, you know, like, you program everything in 5 minutes and done, and you solve all the
with
problems.
a lot of screens, like metrics, and then you're like, that's what a software engineer is supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's silly when you think of it like that, but I actually think that this image is more there than we actually want to admit that it is. So, you know, when you're just starting out, and then you compare yourself to that, it's very disheartening.
Yeah.
And I think you can miss out on a lot of things if you constantly try to be that. And I'm not sure if anyone is like that, really. I mean, this is not to say that there are not brilliant engineers out there, because there are. But for example, the people that I admire the most, they always say, like, yeah, but that, you know, Carmen, I have like tens of years of experience, you know, and like, no, but you're so smart, and you know, it's like, no, it's really a lot of experience. So I think that's very important to keep that in mind, especially for people who are starting out, but also for people who have been in the industry.
Indeed, it goes back to this idea of like the 10x engineer. At some point, I don't know if you saw that thing. At some point, it went completely crazy. Twitter crashed. Like, what?
Yeah.
But we're putting too much pressure on these fields, like this role, and then people can completely go like, I want to be that person.
Yeah.
And then you end up burning out, or
And I think it's important to say that this is not about, you know, saying that you go and you work as an engineer, you have no idea what you're doing. I think most of us strive to know what we're doing.
Yeah, indeed.
But I think, and this is where the mindset thing comes in, is I think it's because I think, well, so when you're comparing yourself to a very, very high standard, maybe an unrealistic standard, if we can say that, the chances are that you're going to be bummed out. But not only that, but you're just putting a lot of focus on something that is not productive at all. It's not constructive. It's very destructive for your work, for yourself, for everything. And if you just can get out of that mindset and approach everything from the perspective of, well, okay, so this stereotype or this idol or whatever that I'm aiming towards, that's also something that happened after many years of experience. So then you approach it from a very different perspective, because then you focus on, okay, I need to go through this, I need to learn these things to get that experience so I can get there. You can't just get there. You can't, there's no shortcut, basically.
Indeed. It goes back to the mindset. Like reprogram your mindset and you be better off. Okay. Something you mentioned, comparing ourselves to people, but there is comparing, but there is also having this role model or someone we look up to, and then we're like, that person inspire me. Do you have, as a software engineer, someone that inspire you? And who's that person?
No, that's Igor.
Igor?
Yeah, Igor.
From the Angular team?
From the Angular team, yeah.
So in which sense would you?
Oh, in all the senses. I was actually very scared of Igor at first.
Igor, can you hear that?
Well, he knows because I told him. But once I talked with him for a couple of times at conferences and so on, and I got to know him a little bit. I actually realized that he's a very nice guy. What I like the most about him is, I don't know exactly how to put this into words. I think he's a very kind person, but kind in and it's a kind of kindness that kind of overflows all his actions. The way, he's in the community, the way he approaches people, the way he moves things forward in the framework. So it's kind of a kindness that reflects in everything that he does, and I really like that. I like that a lot.
I got to meet him at NGBE, I think 2016. It blew my mind away. It's like he has a zen attitude. I'm like, man, things are burning. No, it's completely down to earth, and love it.
Yeah. So I like that energy.
So as I probably told you, we try to create that chain of people, our guests interviewing the people they admire or people that they got inspired by, and which takes me to my next question is like, if we get Igor here, it could be in Amsterdam, it could be in San Francisco, would you want to host the podcast with him?
Yeah, I'll start working on my questions tomorrow.
Okay. So Igor, we're coming your way. And will be nice to have you in the podcast, and Carmen will be hosting you. So that's gonna happen. Put it right here. It's gonna happen. Which date? 18th of September 2019. We signed an agreement that Igor and Carmen will be on the Actflix podcast one day.
Yeah.
Okay, Carmen. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
I think when people the way the title is phrased, people will probably think that's not tech related, but I think it makes all sense. It's something that I know that I struggle with from where I come from, where I grew up, and then moving to Europe and learning like, okay, you have all those opportunities, but you gotta need to go after them, but you probably need to change your mindset and make sure that you're better off, like you well equipped to go after the things. And I'm glad to see like I was not the only person struggling with that, and some people were able to put it in a book and explain those topics. Great. So probably something that I need to mention. at Acflix we have those documentaries that we're shooting at the moment, and some people who are listening or watching this podcast right now might want to know that she has a secret talent, and we're going to shoot an amazing documentary about her talent.
Oh boy.
So sign up on iClicks, and you will be able to watch Carmen in not coding. Yeah, that's too easy. But on something else. So you have the last words?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe just something to take away for everybody is to just remember that coding is really it's such a gift when you can make things happen with code, and it's normal that you struggle with everything, and that should not demotivate you. Just struggling means that you're learning.
Yep.
That's actually it's a very good thing, and I think just keep in mind that you have to have the patience. You can't just skip over it, and actually going through it will be a much more educational experience and enriching experience. So just something to take
Great. So
home.
People, we're done, and thanks for listening, and hopefully this podcast was inspiring for you.
I hope so too.
Thanks, Carmen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm just gonna shake your hand again.
Yeah.
Or we do a high five, then it's yes, perfect. Thanks, people.